All right. Hey, everybody. It looks like we are live. The time on deck is 1600 on a Thursday afternoon. What is today's date, by the way? February 16th. And hello and welcome to all of my fellow YouTubers out there. It's always good to be with you. And last week we discussed VA home loans. We got pretty in depth and detailed on the VA home loan benefit, and I thought that the overall response was pretty spectacular. We had a lot of veterans tune in, and the veterans brought it. They brought their questions, and they had a lot of them, and we were able to dispel a lot of the myths out there when it comes to VA loans. Hello and welcome. I'm happy that you are here. Thanks for joining me. And so I was just saying that we were able to dispel a lot of the myths surrounding VA home loan benefits because there are a lot of them out there. And if you remember, one of the things that I had talked about in the last live session, I said that, look, the VA doesn't advertise the VA home loan benefit. Did you know that? Well, the VA doesn't advertise it, right? So it's up to mortgage lenders, people like myself, mortgage loan originators, to release this information to the marketplace. And a lot of times we don't know what the heck is going on. So it creates this cycle of bum scoop, as we would say in the Marine Corps, where if the VA doesn't advertise it, mortgage lenders don't understand it. Well, how then can we expect our veterans and active duty service members to understand everything that they need to know about their VA home loan benefit? So one of the things that I want to say today is this is your opportunity to ask me any particular questions that you have about your VA home loan benefit, and I will do my very best to answer it. Number one. And number two, if I don't know the answer, I will certainly bird dog it, find it out for you, and report back to you. All right. So my name is Jimmy Vercellino. I'm a mortgage loan originator with First Western Trust, and I specialize in VA home loans. Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you guys are here. Just saying that I specialize in VA loans, and I've been doing it since 2005 when I got out of the Marine Corps. And I didn't know what W-2s were. I didn't know what tax returns or how they worked. But here's what I did know. I did know what BAH was. I did know what BAS was. I did know what it meant I did know what it meant to deploy. And I spoke the language of the active duty service member. And so for the last 17 years, I've been pouring into our veteran community, helping us to better understand our VA home loan benefit, how it works, and how you're able to deploy it properly. So I thought it would be a good idea to briefly touch on really a general overview of the VA loan. So if you're just tuning in, one of the things that I would tell you is that the VA loan allows us as veterans and active duty service members to purchase a home up to any purchase price you would like with no money down. Okay, no money down up to any purchase price you would like. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you've heard me say, now keep in mind, you must qualify, you must have the income, you must have the necessary credit score. Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're here. If you have any questions while I'm kind of discussing VA loans, make sure to drop your question, anything VA loan related, and I will do my best to answer it for you during our time in this live stream together. So I was just saying VA loan, 100% financing up to any purchase price you'd like, keeping in mind that you have to have the credit and income to qualify for the VA loan. Now, keep in mind that the VA loan can really be used towards really any type of purchase that you'd like within reason. And here's what I mean by that. You can purchase a single family home. You can purchase a condominium. You can purchase a townhome. Okay, you can also purchase up to a 4-unit property with a VA home loan benefit. A lot of veterans don't know that. And if I had to do it all over again, when I was first using my VA loan, this is definitely something that I would have considered doing, right, to really kind of create a real estate portfolio with my VA home loan benefit. So you can even have more than one VA home loan at a time. This is probably one of the most common questions that I get from the veteran community about VA home loans is, well, how do you have more than one VA home loan at a time? So I'm going to briefly discuss that because I think it's important for you to know whether you're wanting to purchase your first home or perhaps you want to buy another home, bigger home, more desirable location, better square footage, or bigger square footage, better school district, house with the pool, whatever. So think of it like this, veterans. We all have about $726,200 worth of VA home loan benefits. And remember, this is your time. Good to go? Meaning if you have a question specifically related to your VA loan need, drop it in the comment box and I personally will answer that question for you. No strings attached. Good to go? So I was just saying VA loan, $726,200. It's like if I gave you $726,000, I said, hey, you can spend $300 here and you can spend the other $426,200 somewhere else. Well, that's kind of like how our VA home loan benefit works. You've been allotted $726,200 worth of a VA home loan that you can really deploy however you'd like, so long as, once again, right, you qualify for the loan. Stephanie says, I would like to learn while I'm getting ready to purchase. Well, Stephanie, you came to the right place. I'm happy that you're here. If you have any additional questions about the VA home loan benefit as I'm kind of moving along, don't hesitate to let me know. But again, you can utilize however you'd like a portion of your VA loan here and a portion of your VA loan on the next house. Now, you can't use it to buy an investment property. It has to be your primary residence. And generally speaking, you have to live in the home at least, do me a favor, say at least. There you go. At least 1 year before you go out and purchase another home. So in the last video, I talked a little bit about credit scores. Okay, this is something that I think is important for you to know. Stephanie, if you're getting ready to purchase a home, you'll likely want to know what the minimum credit scores needed are for a VA home loan. And this will really vary depending upon lender to lender. But generally speaking, okay, most lenders across the country will require minimum credit score of 620. There are some lenders that will go lower. However, it's in your best interest, pun intended, okay, to have the most competitive credit score possible. Why is that? Number one, right, you're going to get better financing terms, a lower interest rate. And number two, you're also going to be able to get, or I should say, increase the likelihood that you are approved for a VA home loan. Good to go. So that's something that's incredibly important to keep in mind. Minimum credit scores, the higher the credit score, the less the risk on the loan, which translates to a lower interest rate on the VA loan. And that's something that I think is worthwhile or covering for just a moment here. And remember, if you guys have questions, drop them in the comment box and I personally will make sure that they get answered. And if you feel like I'm doing a good job, all right, it's okay to throw a like out there if you feel like I've earned it, right? So that way we can help promote the video, educate more veterans and active duty service members, and make sure that we're getting all of their questions answered. Roger that. All right. So I was talking a little bit about the VA home loan, the credit scores needed, right? Different lenders have different credit score requirements. But when you get ready to go out and purchase your home, you're going to identify a lender, a mortgage originator, somebody like myself. Okay. By the way, I am licensed to lend in all 50 states. And if I can be a personal resource for you, I would be honored to do so. All right. And so basically what I'm getting at here is you're going to provide all of this documentation. Neil, I see your question, and I will make sure to answer it. And if, by the way, if that's the Neil that I'm thinking of, God bless you, brother. I got a lot of love for you. And it's a blessing to see your name on this chat box. Okay. So Neil asks the question, is now a good time to purchase a home? And I definitely want to cover that. It's something that I've been giving a lot of thought to in the most recent, really couple of days. But you're going to provide all of the lender, your documentation. The lender's going to review it all, and then they're going to report back to you, and they're going to say, hey, you're pre-qualified up to X amount of dollars, right? So at that point, you're then pre-qualified. You can go out and start shopping for homes. All right. Generally speaking, the process from start to finish will take anywhere from 30 to 45 days. Once you've identified a home, get under a contract, go through all of the proper underwriting, get the appraisal ordered, et cetera, before you as the veteran can purchase your home. So speaking of purchasing homes, Neil asks the question, is now a good time to buy? It's a very good question, and one question that I think we as prospective home buyers should be asking. And again, this is something that I've spent quite a bit of time thinking about. And the reality is simply this. You know, Neil, when we get ready to invest in our retirement, whether it be a 401k or an IRA, very rarely do we ask the question, is now a good time to invest, right? Why is that? Well, because we know that over the course of time, history tells us that we are likely going to see a rate of appreciation on a investment, right? If you look at past performance, although it's not indicative of future gains, but if you look at past performance of the stock market, historically speaking, has done one thing, and that's go up, right? Over time. Now, having said that, why don't we ask the question when purchasing a home, right? Is the value of the home always going to go up? Well, if you look at real estate over time has only done one thing. So allow me to make my point, right? A lot of buyers right now in today's market are asking the question, should I buy? And they're afraid, right? They're afraid of values going lower. Why are they afraid of values going lower? Because they don't want the price of their home to go up, right? But let me kind of just say this. If you're long on real estate, you win. If you're long on real estate, you win. And so if you look at it from the perspective of, let's take an example. Let's say that you bought your home in 2006 at the very tip top of the market. 2006, tip top of the market, median home price was somewhere around, call it 221,000. I'm speaking to the Phoenix metro area where I'm based out of, okay? If you bought your home in 2006 at the very height of the market, you could argue that that would have been the worst time that you could have possibly bought a home in the last 100 years since the Great Depression, right? The Great Recession, the subprime mortgage market meltdown, values absolutely crashed. It was a very troubling time, and it's no laughing matter, truthfully. A lot of Americans were hurt badly by this market. But fast forward 16 and a half years, you'll see that the median home price of a home here in the Phoenix metro area climbed from 221,000 to about $410,000, right? So what does that mean? It means that real estate values went up approximately $189,000, even in the midst of the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression, right? Over a 16 and a half year period, we've seen real estate values once again go up about 189,000. Divide that by 16 and a half years, and that translates to about 5.1% year over year appreciation in your home, even with that significant market correction. So what am I saying here, Neil? I'm saying that if you're long on real estate, just like you're long on investing in the stock market and in your retirement, you win. And the odds are in your favor significantly that purchasing a home in today's market, if you're long on real estate, we're not talking about speculative home buying here. I'm not talking about 6 months to a year, right? But if you're long on real estate, the odds are in your favor that you will win. Bless you too, Jimmy. Yes, it's me. All right, Neil. That's what I thought, bud. So bless you and bless Siri as well. Give my best to her, okay? So that's a little bit about why I think that buying a home is always a good idea. And after all, Neil, one of the things that I say is that you're paying a mortgage regardless if you rent or if you own, right? It's either your mortgage or your landlord's mortgage. My philosophy is it might as well be your own. So that's a little bit about why I think that purchasing a home in any market is always a good idea if you're financially prepared to do so. Brian Coakley says, wow, 5% average rate of return. That seems like a pretty safe choice to make. 100%, Brian, I agree with you. And, buying real estate is one reason why they say that a homeowner's net worth is about 45 times greater. Let me repeat that. 45 times greater than those that rent. That is a pretty powerful number. And a lot of veterans that have watched this channel have been able to build and accumulate wealth through the acquisition of real estate. As a matter of fact, we have a veteran that's purchasing a home in Georgia who found this channel, by the way, who's purchasing a home in Georgia. I kid you not. He was able to purchase a home that had $100,000 in equity in the home, right? That is uncommon. It doesn't happen very often, but it kind of speaks to a bigger point that there's a lot of opportunity in this marketplace today. And one of the things that Warren Buffett's quoted as saying is he says, buy when others are fearful, right? And sell when others are being greedy. So now is a time that I think if you look at kind of macroeconomic conditions, inflation continues to kind of linger around, right? A lot of people are moving to the sidelines. Well, perhaps we should consider being a contrarian, going towards a home purchase, being able to advocate on your behalf with your real estate agent and negotiate terms of the purchase price with the seller. So speaking of terms with the purchase price with the seller, that means that you can essentially, in today's market, offer, let's just say a $400,000 purchase, you can offer 400K, but you can ask them to credit back roughly, let's say 2% of the purchase price towards closing costs and prepaid items. So what does that mean for my veterans? What it means for the veterans watching this channel is that you could potentially write an offer on a home and ask the seller to cover all of the costs in conjunction with the loan, allowing you to not only get into the home with no money down, but to get into the home with no additional out-of-pocket expenses because they have been covered by the seller. In the old days, we used to refer to this as a VA no-no, no money down, no out-of-pocket expenses. And it is something that me and my team are seeing a significant amount of today in the market. So there is one other thing that I do want to discuss with you today, and it's something that I'm seeing come up more and more, and veterans asking across this channel about VA service-connected disability. So if you're a veteran watching this video right now, and you have a VA disability rating of as little as 10%. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this live stream, do me a favor. If you feel like I've earned it, drop a like on the video. It lets me know that I'm doing a good job, number one. And number two, make sure to comment with your questions down below so that way I can personally answer your questions for you, no strings attached. Good to go. So I was talking about VA disability and why this is so important on a VA home loan. So everybody probably knows, right? Veterans that served in the military, they got banged up, dinged up in the military. They get a VA disability rating assigned. By the way, thank you for that like. I appreciate it. You get a VA disability rating assigned by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, this could be as little as 10%, right? It can go all the way to 100%. The reason why having a VA service-connected disability is such a big deal is because it saves you a significant amount of money on a VA loan, a significant amount of money on a VA loan. So there's this thing, it's called a VA funding fee. And the VA funding fee, I talked about this in one of my short YouTube videos this week. And the VA funding fee is a cost imposed on the mortgage by the Department of Veterans Affairs. So really what that means for you and I is that the VA is charging us as veterans to use our VA loan benefit. And the reason why they do that is because the VA is essentially guaranteeing the loan. A lot of people don't know that. We think get a VA loan, right? And the VA is going to lend us the money. No, the lender's lending you and I the money as veterans to take advantage of it. The VA is over here and they say, hey, Mr. Lender, right? And you say, Roger that, what's up? And they say, well, here's the deal. If the veteran were to foreclose on the loan for any reason, we'll cut you a check for 25%. That's the only thing that the VA does. So we as mortgage originators have to underwrite the loan according to the VA guidelines. You guys following me on that? Shake your head up and down if you're with me. I can't see you, but I'm assuming that you're doing it. So that's what the VA does. That's their only involvement on the loan. So because the VA is on the hook for so much money, they charge us as veterans something called a VA funding fee. Once again, a cost imposed on the mortgage by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, here's the deal. If you're service connected, that VA funding fee starts at as little as 2.3%, goes all the way up to 3.6%. So think about that for a second, right? If you're buying a house for $500,000 and you're using your VA loan for the second, third, fourth, fifth time, by the way, that brings me to my next point, right? The VA loan, we could use it as many times as we would like, so long as we have sufficient entitlement. Okay, your VA loan never expires. It never goes away. You can even have more than one at a time. I talked about how to do that earlier, right? But a lot of my Vietnam veterans don't know this information. Heck, a lot of veterans that served in Desert Storm don't know this information. So again, VA doesn't advertise it. Mortgage loan originators don't understand it. So how can we expect you to understand it? And really, that's my mission, right? To provide and assist all veterans, active duty service members with all of their VA home loan financing needs. All right. So the VA funding fee starts at 2.3%, goes all the way up to 3.6%. Think about that. $500,000 loan, you're paying the VA $15,000 to use your VA home loan benefit, right? It's rolled into the loan 9 times out of 10. I'd say in my experience, it's 10 times out of 10. But here's the deal. If you're a service-connected veteran, you are entitled to have that VA funding fee waived for life. You're never going to have to pay it again. So as long as you have a VA disability rating of 10%, that VA funding fee is waived. You don't ever have to worry about paying it ever again in your future, making the VA loan by far and away the most competitive financing terms that exist on the marketplace today. So let's talk about that a little bit more. What makes a VA loan so much more competitive than their conventional or FHA counterparts. And remember, veterans, this is your time, right? I don't want to just talk for 30 minutes or however long I'm on here today. I want you to be able to ask your individual questions, anything that I have covered, anything that I haven't covered, anything that you want clarity on. That's what I'm here for today, is to make sure that all of these questions get answered for you. And that's really the reason why we're doing these live streams. So why is a VA loan so much more competitive by way of just savings, right? So there's been veterans before that have watched this channel that have called me and said, hey, Jimmy, I was told by my mortgage loan originator that I should take out an FHA loan over VA. So in the medical field, they have a terminology for when a doctor does something bad or with malintent. You guys know what it is? Right? Type it in the chat box if you know what it is. But if you're following along, you've heard it before. It's called malpractice, right? Doctor screws up, does something that they shouldn't. It's called malpractice. Well, in my opinion, that's malpractice, right? No mortgage loan originator should be originating a VA loan for a veteran if they have VA loan eligibility, number one, and number two, they qualify for a VA loan. Why in the world would we ever put a veteran in an FHA loan? It doesn't make sense. And the main reason why it doesn't make sense is because FHA has, and conventional loans as well, if you're financing more than an 80% loan to value ratio, they have something called private mortgage insurance, PMI. And private mortgage insurance on an FHA loan never goes away. It's about 0.85% of the loan amount. So if you took a side-by-side comparison of an FHA loan versus a VA loan, call it roughly $400,000 loan balance, you'll see that the VA loan will be approximately $450 a month cheaper than an FHA loan. That's a pretty big deal, once again. And another reason why you should never consider, in my opinion, if you're qualified for a VA loan, why you should ever consider taking out an FHA loan over a VA. So let's talk about a veteran that wants to put money down, right? Maybe they're putting down 10%, or maybe they're even putting down 20%. Remember, veterans, that if you're doing conventional loan financing, anything greater than an 80% loan to value ratio, you're going to have to pay PMI. VA loans, you're never going to have to pay that, oftentimes making the VA loan much more competitive by way of monthly payment because you have no private mortgage insurance. And it's not uncommon that you as a veteran will be able to get a lower interest rate on a VA loan compared to a conventional as well. So simply stated, I share all of that to say that you save money when you use your VA home loan benefit. Never expires, never goes away. You can have more than one at a time. Single family residence, condominium, townhome, multi-unit property, duplex, triplex, fourplex, as long as you live, let me make that disclaimer, in one of the units. Good to go? So that's a little bit about the VA loan. I do think it's important to briefly touch on a couple of other characteristics since we're kind of in this arena as far as guidelines are concerned with the VA home loan benefit. I haven't talked about this much recently, but back in 2009, 10, and 11, a lot of veterans had bankruptcies or foreclosures, right? And so if you have a bankruptcy or foreclosure, another thing that makes the VA loan unique is the waiting periods associated with them. So for a veteran that has experienced a bankruptcy or foreclosure, you only need to have waited 2 years. Do me a favor, say 2 years. 2 years since the time of the bankruptcy or foreclosure. Okay, so conventional, 7 years. 7 years on a foreclosure, 4 years on a bankruptcy. FHA, 3 years on a foreclosure, 2 years on a bankruptcy. Okay. So do me a favor, if you're following along or if you have a question, make sure to throw it in the chat box. This time, once again, is dedicated to you. I want to make sure that I'm answering as many possible questions as I can for you. I've probably got about 7 more minutes here that I'm with you today. So remember, throw your questions in the chat box and I will do my best to answer them. So we've talked about the VA funding fee. Now, what happens if you don't have a VA funding fee? Or maybe we've seen this before. A veteran has applied to have a VA service-connected disability, but it hasn't been approved yet. Did you know that as a veteran, if you've filed your claim, but it hasn't been approved yet, and that you get a VA loan afterward, okay, then your VA claim is approved, you're actually entitled to have your VA funding fee reimbursed. So what you would do is you would contact the Department of Veterans Affairs. You would also contact the mortgage loan servicer. Okay. And once you've done that, you can actually get your VA funding fee reimbursed and paid back to you. Stephanie says, I just wondered if you have to live in the home, but you have more than one VA loan at a time, one condominium. How can you living in it and at the same time have more than one? That's a good question, Stephanie. So let's just assume for a second that you, as the veteran, buy a house with your VA loan. You live in it for 1 year. You've occupied that home as your primary residence. You following along with me so far? So you've lived in that home for 1 year. You've occupied it as your primary residence. And now you've started to expand. Perhaps that you need a bigger home. You've got kiddos running around, better school district, house with a pool. You're ready to kind of increase your livable square footage. Well, now you can put a renter in, we'll call it home A, go out and purchase home B and deploy the remaining amount of VA home loan entitlement that you have left over. So you have to have lived in home A for a minimum 1 year. Now you can put a renter in that home and go out and buy that new home with your VA home loan benefit, keeping in mind that you have to live in it. You with me on that, Stephanie? So if I've answered your question, just go ahead and throw a like on the video. That way I can make sure that it's been answered and I can move on. Okay. Any other questions over anything at all? I know there's roughly 10 of us on this live stream together here. Brandon says, what is the minimum credit score for a VA loan approval? Again, great question, Brandon. Minimum credit score typically is around 620. And I talked a little bit about this earlier, but there's multiple lenders that may go lower. My general rule of thumb or suggestion for my veterans is have a 620 credit score because it increases the overall likelihood that you will be approved for the VA loan, number one. And number two, right, you're going to get more competitive financing terms. And of course, that's exactly what we want. Neil says, for those listening, Jimmy's team has been the go-to team. We're totally pleased with our home purchase through Jimmy. Bless you, Neil. Well, when I talk about veterans building and create wealth through the acquisition of real estate, that is something that both you and your bride have done. I would venture to say that you probably have, well north of $100,000 of equity in your home, perhaps even 200. You guys have hit a home run and you've been a blessing to serve. So thank you for the kind words. It's a blessing to see you on here, my brother. And by the way, Neil Penn is a Vietnam veteran. We honor you and we thank you for your service to our great country. And sir, we say welcome home. Good to go. A lot of Vietnam veterans didn't get the welcome home that a lot of OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom veterans such as myself received when we came home from the war, which is why it's so important for me to make sure that we honor as many Vietnam veterans, but especially our Vietnam veterans as we can. Stephanie says, makes sense. Must live in the home for 1 year. Spot on, Stephanie. Okay. So a little bit about what we're seeing in the market right now. I talked to you about kind of the opportunity that I think exists in the marketplace right now with kind of what's happening with inflation, why I think home ownership is a good idea if you're in a financial position to do so long-term, because you're going to build and create wealth over the course of time. Francesco asks, thoughts on the new proposed Renters Bill of Rights being worked on now? Do you think landlords will be affected big time or no? That's a good question, Francesco. I'm not entirely certain. I would have to do my homework on that before I could give you an educated answer. It is something that I think is worthwhile looking into, and I'm glad you're bringing it to my attention. So before I give you an opinion on that, I want to educate myself to make sure that I'm not giving you a bum scoop here. Good to go. What other questions do you guys have for me? All right. So make sure to throw them in the chat box and I'll continue to kind of go on here a little bit more about what we're seeing. But, inflation is a continued concern in the marketplace. Why is that? Well, inflation, simply stated, is the eroding of purchasing power on our dollar. So think about it. Like we saw mortgage interest rates go up probably nearly 3 percentage points, maybe more, at the beginning of January of 2022, all the way to December of 2022. Why did that happen? Well, because inflation continued to be an issue in the marketplace. We saw things like CPI reports, the consumer price index, going to 40-year highs, right? So when that happens, think about it. If you're a lender and you've invested or you've given out a rate to a veteran watching this channel at 3% and inflation's at 7%, you've got a problem. You've got a negative interest rate on your hands. You guys following me on that? So what do lenders have to do? Well, they've got to increase their rates to the inflationary rate, right? So they're not losing money anymore. So that's the real reason why we saw mortgage interest rates spike up the way they did, because we had runaway inflation. I suspect that inflation in the coming months or year will go lower, and so too will interest rates. So if you're watching this video right now, you have a VA loan and you bought a house in, let's just say 2022 to 2023, or let's just say mid 2022 to the end of 2022, the last 6 month period, Q2, Q4, or excuse me, Q3 and Q4, you're probably going to be sitting pretty for a VA loan refinance in the months to come. Why is that? Because when inflation goes lower, so too will interest rates, which will set you up, which brings me to my next point. A lot of veterans think that we can only use our VA home loan benefit for purchasing a home. But did you know that you could actually use your VA home loan benefit to refinance as well? There's really two types of refis. There's a cash out refi. So let's say that you're a veteran, you have a conventional loan, you're paying PMI, or maybe you have an FHA loan. You want to get out of that loan and into a VA and save some money. That's one way to do it. Or you can actually pull cash out of your property to pay off high interest rate credit card debt and amortize it over 30 years, right? So you're essentially paying off higher interest rate credit card debt. You're consolidating it into one lower interest rate. And what this does is it eliminates those liabilities, number one, right? And it increases your monthly cash flow by saving money every month. Right? So that's one reason why veterans might take advantage of a cash out refinance, right? You can go up to about 90% of the home's appraised value of the home. You can actually go higher than that, but Ginnie Mae, which is basically the backer of VA loans, puts a pretty significant surcharge on the loan, really making it unfavorable for veterans to take advantage of a cash out refi. So cash out refi, up to 90% of the home, you can use it to pay off high interest rate credit card debt. You could use it to invest. You can use it to put your children through school, whatever you want to do. It's your money, right? You can deploy it however you'd like. You can use it to put a down payment on another house, etc. All right. So that's a little bit about a cash out refi. Now there's one other type of refi that I think if you're watching this video, I really want you to be aware of. It's called a EARL. VA interest rate refinance reduction loan. Okay, this is basically, it's synonymous with something called a streamlined refinance. And this streamlined refinance allows you to, let's say that you've got a rate at 6%. You can go all the way down to 4%, just giving a hypothetical scenario here, drop your interest rate 2%. Now you don't have to provide an appraisal. You don't have to provide W-2s, bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns, none of that other stuff that you had to provide on the first go around would you need to do with a VA EARL, interest rate refinance reduction loan. So it's a pretty neat opportunity for us as veterans when the market shifts in our favor to be able to lower that rate. Now you have to be careful here, because when you have a VA loan, what's going to happen is you're going to get stuff in the mail and it's going to look like, it's coming from the Department of Veterans Affairs, but it's not. Okay. It's coming from refinance, how should I say, sweatshops, right, that are sending out thousands of mass solicitations to veterans to get the phone to ring. It's very important that you reach out to a mortgage loan originator that you trust, that you respect, that you know is not going to give you bum scoop. Neil asked the question, can you cash out more than once? Yes, absolutely. Neil, you can do that. A lot of veterans are asking questions about things like home equity lines of credit right now. A home equity line of credit is essentially like a credit card that's attached to your home, right? So basically what you could do is you could borrow against it. The rates on these loans from what I'm seeing right now are kind of hovering around 8 to 9%. So perhaps it could make sense to do a VA cash out, have a lower interest rate than that, because VA rates are certainly trading lower than that right now. Okay. Radmila asks, is a 720 credit score going to make a difference if if the spouse's is 730? I don't think so. I think that those are great credit scores. I don't anticipate that you would really have a huge difference in a interest rate with a 10-point swing between the two. I think that you're going to qualify for some of the best interest rates that are out there. So this is my opportunity to share with you that if you have questions, I'm licensed to lend through my partnership with First Western Trust in all 50 states. And I personally can be a resource for you moving forward into the future. And remember, drop your comment in the comment box. I will do my best to make sure that it gets answered. We've talked a little bit about VA loans and qualification. I want to briefly park on eligibility for a second, because remember, veterans, that you can be eligible for a VA loan, but not necessarily pre-qualified, right? Like, I can be eligible, I can have served my country honorably, but that doesn't mean that you're just going to automatically get a VA loan. And VA loan just doesn't automatically approve us. The lender has to approve us, right? So in order to be eligible for a VA loan, you must have been, generally speaking, honorably discharged from the military. Okay. And so what we as mortgage lenders do is we check your DD 214 on box 24. We want to ensure that you have been honorably discharged. And that's how we request something called a certificate of eligibility. Okay. A certificate of eligibility is going to tell us that you're eligible. But remember, you still have to get pre-qualified for the loan. You guys following me on that? So generally speaking, it's 2 years of active duty service or 90 days of active duty service and honorably discharged. Okay. If you're an active duty service member, 90 days, that's all it takes to be able to rate your VA loan. I had a question come in today from a viewer from the YouTube channel for her son. She said, my son just got out of boot camp. He wants to purchase a home. I said, awesome. He could do it technically when he has 90 days of active duty service. But generally speaking, there's a lot going on for an active duty service member in the first year, and things don't settle down until after the first year. So that's probably my best guess when she'll be ready to purchase that home. Rizbis asks, when is the VA loan going international? Man, if it does, I'm moving to Italy, Rizbis. All right. That's the reality of the situation. I'm moving to Italy. I'm using my VA home loan in Italy. But here's what I do know. Although I am not aware of any mortgage lenders that will provide financing in Puerto Rico, if it's a U.S. territory, Guam, Puerto Rico, I have heard that the VA loan will guarantee there, but I have not heard of any veterans, or excuse me, any lenders that are willing to make a VA loan in any of these countries. So that's my best answer that I can give you on that. Hey, welcome everybody. If you're just tuning in, we're talking all things VA loans. My name is Jimmy Vercellino. I'm a mortgage loan originator, Marine Corps veteran, not as lean anymore, or excuse me, not as mean anymore, but still a Marine. Good to go. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Right, all my Marines out there. Do me a favor, sound off with what branch of the service that you were in, so that way I can honor you and thank you as well for your service to our great country. But really today we're talking all things VA home loans. We've covered eligibility for the VA loan. We've covered qualifying for a VA loan. Semper Fi, Radmila. All right. Rizbis says Army. Outstanding. Thank you for your service. Hua. Right. So I'll tell you a quick funny story. I was speaking to a group of active duty Army members and I kept saying Roger up. And they were looking at me crazy, like, why does he keep saying Roger up? Well, that's a very common term in the Marine Corps. Hey, Roger up with me at 602-908-5849. By the way, that's my personal number and you're certainly welcome to do so. Bless you for your service, William. Thank you. El Soldado, USMC Army. Man, you got the best of both worlds, brother. But anyways, I kept saying Roger up, right? And so they were looking at me and they were like snickering and laughing as I was talking. I couldn't figure it out. Finally, one Army service member came up to me afterwards. He's like, dude, we don't use the terminology Roger up. Clearly, that's a Marine thing, right? So anyhow, I have a habit of saying that. But my website is valoansforvets.com. You're always welcome to reach out to me there, ask questions about your VA home loan benefit. We've covered a lot today: eligibility, qualification for a VA loan, the minimum credit scores needed for a VA home loan. We've also talked about having more than one VA home loan at a time. We've talked about whether or not it's a good time to purchase a home in today's market, which my philosophy is that if you're long on real estate, you're always going to win, even if somebody bought a home in the absolute worst time. 2006, fast forward 16 and a half years, they've got an average rate of return on their home, roughly 5.1%. So if you're long on real estate, you win. All right. Stephanie says Navy Operation Enduring Freedom, worked with special operations with Marines. God bless you, Stephanie. Thank you for your service to our great country. Neil, U.S. Navy, Vietnam veteran. God bless you, sir. I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for this channel, and I certainly appreciate you giving me 40 minutes of your time on a Thursday afternoon. I hope that you guys are enjoying yourselves. Maybe pour yourself a drink, sit back, relax. By the way, if you think that I should keep doing this, will you let me know? Just drop a comment if you found that this information was of value, so that way I can keep coming up with creative ideas to discuss VA home loan benefits and really everything that I think that you should know about as active duty service members and veterans. So that way you can, when the time comes, whether you use me or not, take advantage of your VA home loan benefit, have a streamlined approach, and then a lot of times know more than the mortgage lender that you're working with. If you work with me, then hey, just saying, that's not going to happen, right? Because I've taken a lot of time to educate myself on the VA home loan benefit, and my mission is to share it with as many veterans as I possibly can, so that way you guys are well informed and can take advantage of the most beneficial home loan product that exists today on the marketplace, right? So that actually, can I just talk about one other thing here? And this kind of, I don't know, grinds my gears a little bit. Dave Ramsey talked about why he hates VA loans. And by the way, I love Dave Ramsey. All right. Thank you for your content, brother. Much appreciated. I appreciate that, El Sadada. I love Dave Ramsey. I think Dave Ramsey is a man of faith. I think he's got high character. I think he does a lot of great things for many, many, many people across the nation. Having said that, I don't have to agree with everything that he says. And I take issue with what he talks about when it comes to VA loans. When he says that VA loans are more expensive by way of fees and interest rates, please, like, I want to just pull you in for a second. Please don't believe that. I've talked about the differences between conventional and FHA, right, and VA loans, and how VA loans are oftentimes so much more competitive than an FHA or conventional loan. Number one. And number two, there's no additional fees that you as the veteran have to bring to the closing table because you are a veteran. Good to go. So Dave, no matter how well-intentioned he may be, I think he missed the mark when it comes to this discussion about VA home loans, because in my experience as a mortgage professional who specializes in VA loans, I see it all the time. VA loans are cheaper by a way of rate. They're cheaper by way of fees because you're not having to pay for the private mortgage insurance required like FHA and conventional loans do. And lastly, one more time, you're not having to bring additional monies to the closing table. Okay. Risbeth says, LOL, I saw that too. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. Don't buy it. All right. Again, Dave's a great man, but I don't agree with him when he talks about VA loans. Okay. So if you found that this information in our time together today, by the way, I can't believe this has been 42 minutes. That's crazy. It's gone by fast. Do me a favor. If I've earned it, would you consider showing your love and clicking like on the video? Believe it or not, this helps to promote this content, kind of spread it all amongst YouTube to veterans that are serving in New York, Florida, even across the seas. We've had a veteran just this week, or excuse me, last week. He's in Italy. He's been watching my videos, and guess what? He's under contract now on a home, and we're fortunate enough to be the lender that's assisting him with his financing. So this information is going international, and I'm excited about it. Thank you so much to all of you for all of your time. My website, VALoansForVets.com. Once again, that's VALoansForVets.com. You can also email me. Actually, I'll put it in the chat bar here, Jimmy@VALoansForVets.com. And my website is VALoansForVets.com. Okay, a lot of information on there as it relates to VA home loan benefits. You're also welcome to reach out to me direct. All right. There's going to be a day where I'm no longer able to do this because, I'm so busy, but that day hasn't come yet and I'm not worried about it. And I bring it on. Right. So my direct number, you can call or text this number. You'll actually get me, Jimmy V, 602-908-5849. So I am grateful. I'm grateful for your investment of time. I'm also grateful for your commitment to learn more about VA home loan benefits and how they apply to you or your loved ones. And most importantly, I'm grateful for your service to our great country. Semper Fi. God bless.